Hi, so this is my family education history final project. So, who and why? I chose to interview my mom because she is one of the strongest moms out there. She's gone through so much and sacrificed so much to be able to give my sister and I the life we have now. And that is a picture of me and my mom. And then my sister. I chose to interview my sister because she is one of the most independent, smart, and amazing women ever. She has done so much for herself and continues to amaze me in every way possible. And that's a picture of me and her on her bachelorette trip. So, about Perla, my mom. My mom was born and raised in Durango, Mexico. She was born in 1971. She came to the United States when she was around the age of 15, but then went back to Mexico at the age of 18. She then came back to the US once again, but this time with my dad. My mom was 19 and my dad was 22. Although she did not graduate from college, she did attend for about a year or so. She works your typical 9 to 5, but she does so much more than that. She's extremely social and loves meeting new people everywhere and anywhere we go. My mom is the one in the middle. About Brianna, my sister. My sister is one of the women in my life that I look up to the most. She's such a smart and organized, independent, and amazing woman. She graduated from Laverne University in 2014 and then went straight to get her master's at USC and graduated in 2016. She is now a psychologist that does private practice, while she is also a supervisor for the company she first worked for after graduating from USC. She bought a house in 2021 and is now about to get married at the end of May. She has done so much for herself, and it amazes me that she did most of it on her own. She's extremely hardworking, and I aspire to be even the slightest bit similar at her age. And there's a picture of me and my sister when we were both younger. So I decided to ask them questions and kind of gather up their quotes, kind of gather up some quotes. And this is pretty much what they told me in a few paragraphs. So the first question I asked them were, what were some of your struggles growing up? So my mom mentioned, well, the biggest struggle as a child had to have been my parents not having a good relationship. Having to see my mom be abused by my dad was one of the toughest things. It was hard to watch and hard to listen to them fight as a child. And then she mentioned that the next bigger struggle was being poor. Where we lived was not that great. We also lived with 4 others in a house. Having that many people live in one small house caused a lot of arguments between everyone. She said that she had no space for herself and shared a room with my aunt and uncle, so she never really got to be in her own space because someone was always around. And then for my sister, Brianna, she mentions that I think one of the struggles as a child was having parents that didn't speak English very well. Mom started to learn more as I got older, but I remember I had open house at school and I had to pretty much translate a lot for mom, especially when we talked to my teacher. I'm extremely grateful that they taught me how to speak English, but it was definitely a struggle when I was younger. She also mentions that another struggle was definitely mental health and having our parents not acknowledge that. It was really hard for me to kind of go through those emotions without being able to talk to mom and dad because they didn't really believe in being depressed or really having any emotions. It was definitely a hard subject to talk about with them both. So I then decided to ask them, how are you parented, and in what way has it affected you now as an adult? So my mom mentions, I think my mom, meaning my grandma, I think my mom did the best she could given the situation with my dad. She was very tough on all of us. She basically put your aunt in charge of us because she had to work a lot to provide for the 3 of us. Because of the way she raised us, I think we all had to grow up quicker than the kids around us. And as I got older, I told myself that I wanted to raise my kids differently. It also made me realize the things I do also reflect on you guys, so I always wanted to make sure that if your dad and I ever fought, it would never be in front of you guys. I wanted to make sure you and your sister had a completely different childhood than I did. So my sister mentions, Honestly, mom and dad both did a great job with raising us. It wasn't the absolute best, but it definitely wasn't the worst. There were things that probably could have been better, such as worrying about our mental health more. I also want to say that they were tougher on me than they were on you. I feel like I was kind of a test dummy for them, so when you came along, they kind of did it a little better. I think now as an adult, I've come to realize that things back then were so different as they were now, and back then they probably thought they were doing the right things, but hopefully now they kind of see where at times they went wrong. I definitely have a different way of going about things with my future kids. So, some similarities between Brianna and Perla, my sister and my mom. One thing that they had similar were financial struggles. My sister struggled to pay off her student loans. She attended two private universities with no help from FESPA. Luckily, with the help from my parents and another family member, my sister was able to pay off her student loans. My mom also had some financial struggles when my sister was born. She had her at 19 years old within the first full year of living with my dad in the US. 25 years later, and my parents are now homeowners, and my mom is no longer struggling financially. Some differences between Brianna and Perla, my sister and my mom. My sister and my mom had more differences than similarities. My sister grew up in a more privileged home while my mom did not. My sister had the opportunity to attend private schools and get an education and a great job after completing her master's. Although my mom is now financially stable, it wasn't easy for her. My mom grew up with a single mom for most of her life, while my sister grew up with both parents that loved each other unconditionally. In conclusion, both my sister and my mom are strong women. They came from different backgrounds yet have accomplished so much for themselves, and my mom also accomplishing so much for my sister and I. My mom had some struggles growing up because of where she lived and who she was raised by, but she turned out to be an amazing woman and an amazing mother. Although my sister struggled with mental issues and having my parents dismiss that, she has done so much for herself and continues to thrive in absolutely everything. She's the best big sister and the best role model. And that concludes my family education history presentation. Thank you.